Economist Peter Marisi is a professor at the University of Maryland School of Business. Peter, the president will be forced to run a re-election campaign in a terrible economy. You say that's not because of the legacy of President Bush and his policies or a financial crisis, but that President Obama has been his own worst enemy?
Absolutely. He inherited a mess, but he has made it much worse and gotten us in deeper. Look at health care costs. The health care bill did not resolve the problem. They're rising steeply. The banks continue trading and don't make loans. Dodd-Frank has not succeeded. But most importantly, the president promised to do something about energy and about China when he was campaigning. He promised us thousands of green jobs. He shut down drilling in the Gulf, more or less, but he hasn't replaced them with another industry. And on China, he simply hasn't acted. That trade deficit is choking this economy. That's why there's not enough demand for what Americans make, and the economy doesn't move forward.
But, Peter, he doesn't really exactly have a compliant Congress at the moment, specifically parts of the House of Representatives.
That's true, but the reason he doesn't have a compliant Congress is that he squandered his first year. And now, as a consequence, the country has elected a Congress that wants a change in direction. The Congress, for its part, doesn't seem much capable of providing it. So to say that Mr. Obama is alone in not getting us out of this mess would not be fair. The Republicans aren't providing a path either.
All right, Nomi Prinz is a senior fellow at Demos, and she's also the author of It Takes a Pillage, an epic tale of power, deceit, and untold trillions. Welcome to the program. You know, the American public continues to give President Obama low marks on his handling of the economy. A CNN ORC poll shows only 9% say the president's policies made the economy better, while 39% feel his policies prevented things from getting worse. Just about the same amount, 37%, say President Obama's policies actually made the economy worse. Nomi, is the president at the mercy of the financial crisis here, or do you agree with Peter that some of his own policies have exacerbated this?
I think it's a combination. And Peter's right that certain policies have not necessarily made things better. But on the other hand, it's because those policies haven't really addressed not the financial crisis, but how the banking system has been a culprit in continuing the problem that the financial crisis that began in 2008 showed, in that it isn't helping to refinance loans. It isn't extending new loans to small businesses, which employ nearly 50% of the people in this country and create 50 to 40% of jobs depending on the economy. So when people are upset or confused, which those numbers show, or even negative, it's because that's the result of what's happening. The economy isn't getting better. Job creation isn't positive, and whatever those policies are isn't helping that. But also not having a policy that addresses the fact that the banks continue to deteriorate themselves and the economy and not assist in giving forward to the population, either in the form of small business loans for jobs or refinancing for a mortgage market when the housing market continues to tank and foreclosures continue to rise. The necessity to on-lend the money they received in cheap subsidies from the government and continue to from the Federal Reserve, that's a fundamental mishandling of policy.
Let's bring in Jean Sahadi. She's a senior writer at CNN Money. You know, the president, Jean, announced his debt reduction plan to the nation this week, and Republicans slammed that plan, saying, you know, we see a lot of taxes, but where are the major spending cuts? There were some $500 billion in spending cuts, but the bulk of this is paid for by taxing the rich. Jean, do they have a point?
They do have a point, but more from the fiscal hawk side than from the political side. Senior administration officials basically said this is not a compromise proposal. This is really the direction the president would like to go in. This is not about the summer's negotiations over the debt ceiling. What he did was a third of his savings comes from higher taxes and 2/3 comes from spending. But fiscal hawks say it's not really 2/3 because 1/3 is from worse spending drawdown, which was going to happen anyway. So there's a big debate in Washington about whether those should count as deficit reduction. He also doesn't really attack the entitlement programs very much. Social Security isn't even in the plan, and the Medicare cuts and Medicaid cuts are mostly on the administrative side, which has to happen too, but it's not as comprehensive as people were hoping for.